Hi there, I'm Kelsey Adams. I had the pleasure to study Thoreau in 2 of Dr. Beebe's classes. Reading Walden first as an undergrad inspired me to learn more about ecocriticism, one of the lesser-known literary lenses. Ecocriticism examines nature as more than just a setting, but as an actual factor in the plot. Environmental writings first served as a way of exploring the natural world, recording the feelings of wonder, joy, and the fear of the wild that it inspired. Later, as man became more civilized, these environmental writings became a way of expressing certain values, such as mankind's dominion over nature. Ecocriticism emerged as a full-blown critical discourse during the 1990s. Today, as more scholars examine this literary lens, ecocriticism is increasingly being used to study a broader range of writings, not just nature writings, since most any work comments somehow on mankind's reaction to the environment. Many of the works in early American literature are classic examples of writings easily analyzed through ecocriticism. In fact, the genre of environmental writing can be said to have its roots in the New England area. Thoreau followed in the footsteps of earlier American writers such as Anne Bradstreet and Emerson, who drew inspiration from nature. In Walden, Thoreau immerses himself in the natural world and uses it as more than just a simple setting. Any section of Walden can be analyzed through an ecocritical lens, but for today I'm going to focus mainly on the ponds. In it, I'm going to look at how Thoreau symbolizes and personifies Walden Pond to teach his readers how to better live. And just so you know, I'm using the 150th anniversary illustrated edition of Walden, but all my quotations come from the Ponds chapter, so you should be able to find them if you're using a different copy. Throughout the chapter, Walden Pond is giving a mystical aura, and it is often personified to show how it is set apart from other ponds. Even though this wasn't some revered part of the American landscape, Thoreau uses pages and pages to describe Walden in detail. He even notes the different colors in the pond, depending on the seasons and one's vantage point. Such meticulous descriptions remind readers that all nature can be appreciated. You just have to take the time to truly see it. As Thoreau continues to describe Walden Pond, we readers can see how the pond serves as a model for mankind. The speaker describes characteristics specific to Walden Pond, its purity, its unchanging nature, and its nurturing qualities. He suggests that the reader too should cultivate such virtues. In regards to its purity, Thoreau describes Walden Pond as remarkable for its depth and purity. He even calls it God's drop, and a perfect forest mirror, in which all impurity presented to it sinks. Walden stands in stark contrast to Flint Pond, which is impure in comparison and has been used to feed man's greed. Flint Pond thus stands as a foil to Walden Pond, and it shows the ramifications of only appreciating nature for how much money it can give you, instead of valuing nature for itself. Thoreau also talks about how beautiful and pure White Pond is, even though he still calls this water Walden's lesser twin. After praising these ponds at length for their unadulterated nature, Thoreau declares, "How much more beautiful than our lives, how much more transparent than our characters are they." These ponds are more esteemed than human nature, which has been dirtied by greed, selfishness, and corruption. Thoreau seems to ask, if these ponds can still be so pure after all this time, shouldn't we humans strive to have clean souls and pure motives? And another characteristic of Walden addressed by the narrator is how little altered the pond is. He mentions other changes in the area, including the surrounding woods and landscape, new innovations such as the railroad, and he even talks about how there have been different people groups who have been on the land. But Thoreau describes Walden as unchanged. He elaborates, "Though the wood choppers have laid bare first this shore and then that, and the Irish have built their sties by it, and the railroad has infringed upon its border, and the icemen have skimmed it once, it is itself unchanged, the same water which my youthful eyes fell on." He even wonders, perhaps on that spring morning when Adam and Eve were driven out of Eden, Walden Pond was already in existence. Even then it had commenced to rise and fall, had clarified its waters and colored them of the hue they now wear, and obtained a patent of heaven to be the only Walden pond in the world. These reflections serve a greater purpose than just suggesting the lasting permanence of the pond. Remaining unchanged throughout time supports a larger theme throughout Thoreau's Walden, the theme about remaining true to oneself and resisting conformity. Readers can look to this pond as a natural symbol of how to resist conforming to the outside world, and in the process be applauded for their steadfastness. Now we're going to move on to how nurturing Walden Pond is. Thoreau lists all the wildlife that lives in or around Walden Pond, and he even claims that since Walden Pond has such clean water, all the fishes which inhabit the pond are much cleaner, handsomer, and firmer fleshed than those in the river and other ponds. Thoreau thus describes the pond as teeming with life and vigor, positively shaping the natural world around it. Thoreau's description of the healthy wildlife of Walden Pond serves as incentive for us readers to take a more nurturing approach to the natural world around us, and even in a larger sense, to spend more time caring for everyone around us instead of only worrying about ourselves. And Thoreau closes out the pond's chapter with some criticism to mankind. He declares, "Nature has no human inhabitant who appreciates her, and he scorns the fact that humans talk of heaven even while we disgrace earth." He reiterates the fact that mankind has some lessons to learn from and regarding the natural world. Well, this was my take on the ponds, but there's much more in the chapter that deserves a close look as well. Thanks for listening.